Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the original Loretta Brown Show radio to open the heart, heal the soul, and awaken the consciousness. And good morning, Mr. Benny Mathers. Thanks for jumping on. How are you?
Yay! Good morning, campers. Is that going to brighten you up for today already?
Woo! Get up.
Yeah, you came in a little low. I kind of felt your energy was, and you said it. And I'm like, all right, we're going to change. We're going to flip this turn. We're going to turn this around.
Thank you. I'm so glad you did. I was remembering, we used to camp a lot when I grew up, and here's the deal. A happy camp, a clean camp is a happy camp.
Of course. So is every room in the house and the car and the studio. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, wow. So yeah, how are you doing in October?
Doing well so far, not very well for our folks in Florida, but I want to give our best to all of them down there. They can't just catch any break whatsoever. So I know it's just on Hurricane Milton is just unleashing its fury right now, but our best to everyone down there. Stay safe. Hopefully everyone got out of town. I know some people are reluctant on doing that. I don't know. Hopefully that was the best move for them, but all right. Big love, big heart.
Yeah, I have some clients down there and did some Zoom sessions with people who are like, well, we're going to evacuate. And I'm like, just go evacuate,
Get off the Zoom. What are you doing?
Get off the Zoom call, go evacuate. Yeah. But yeah, I send all my love and blessings and Reiki and goodness. I have a Reiki team and we're sending Reiki. And honestly, if you're on my Facebook, if you're connected with me on social media, I have some, I'll be posting some sites where you can send help or donations. I know there's a lot of people that open their fields for animals. There was some people going down to rescue some animals and just, it's what we got to do. Open our hearts and just help each other. So yep, to everybody down there.
Lend a hand, do what you can.
Yeah, that's right. Lend a hand, do what you can. I like that. Yeah. I like that. I think I'm going to put that up on the wall.
Make it happen.
I sometimes talk to people and they're like, I don't understand. I'll be cleaning and, the other person's just laying there, maybe they could lend a hand, right? So anyway, prayers to everybody down there in the path of the hurricanes. And let me get into astrology because, wow, we do have a lot going on and Neptune and Pluto, and we've got Pisces, we've got all this watery stuff going on. And let me just jump into it. So on October 9th, Jupiter, the big planet of expansion, went retrograde. And so for a few days, we actually have 6 planets retrograde, which is retrograde city. And we keep having these planets go backwards and then forwards. But the 6 planets retrograde always implies looking backward a little bit and reviewing something, going through something again, getting another chance at something. And Jupiter went retrograde in Pluto, right? Went retrograde until, so we have 6 planets retrograde. Let me try to say that again. Until October 11th, which is tomorrow, and then Pluto turns direct. And so then we only have 5 planets retrograde. That's what I was trying to say. So Jupiter, stationary and retrograde in the air sign of Gemini, creates an ever swirling, chaotic energy, just like the hurricanes, making us feel like things are spinning out of control. An out of control spin cycle inevitably breaks things down, which is what we are currently experiencing. Kind of clearing the air is another way of saying that. Sometimes we just kind of get to these pressure points, or whatever it is that's going on is not really sustainable. And so it's going to break free and then make room for something new to come in. Jupiter entered Gemini back in May. And so this is the first retrograde we've experienced since then. And Jupiter will travel from 21 degrees of Gemini back to 11 degrees of Gemini. And during this retrograde, themes from the end of May to September of 2024 may come back around. In shamanic Egyptian astrology, Jupiter is Horus, the young king. Gemini is allied with the Sphinx, or knowledge. It's an air sign. The solution during this time is to back up a little bit and connect with energies from the great above, from the divine, from God. If the pressure feels unbearable, manifesting as anxiety or a sense of doom, use the breath, which is a Gemini tool, to find your center. There are times when the winds of change are greater than our own plans, and this is one of them. And I do tell people all the time, do the best you can to just take that deep breath in and breathe in through the nose, pause a little bit, and then breathe out through the mouth. That is a breath that helps relieve the vagus nerve. Now, add to all of this Pluto turning direct October 11th. Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth, the lord of the underworld, and he is moving through Capricorn for the last time, and he has his eyes trained on the structures of society. We may be transported back to 2008 in some way and find themes from that time either officially coming to a close, or we may finally feel at peace with whatever has transpired. It's going to come full circle in some fashion. The old grids are dissolving because we have shifted and accelerated quantum consciousness in this powerful year of the dragon. And just foreshadowing, next year is the year of the snake, shedding of the skin, right? You have been alchemizing density, clearing ancestral lineages, unwinding old third dimensional imprints, patterns, and behaviors which have served up till now but are limiting, and they're ready to be released, transformed, and transmuted. And all that is God, and all that is helping us make that transformation. Pluto will re-enter Aquarius on November 20th, where it will remain until 2043, ushering in a new era. And just a reminder that before Pluto moves, it always causes destruction and then rebirthing. And just a reminder that when it moved into Capricorn in 2008, we had the housing market fall. There were a lot of things that were destroyed and then rebuilt. And so that's the job of Pluto, kind of clearing things out and then helping us rebuild. And on Saturday, October 12th, the sun in Libra will square Mars in Cancer, bringing a buildup of tension. If we have been feeling stretched thin or burnt out, we may finally reach our limit on Saturday. Heated emotions may rise as well, causing us to blow, to lash out, or to get snappy with those around us. So tensions will ease after that day. And I'm sorry, I do have a funny sense of humor. Unless you're a snapping turtle, try not to snap at people, right? Just do the best you can. We're all human. We have good days and bad days. And like I said, this too will pass. On Sunday, October 13th through Tuesday of October 15th, we have very busy astrological days leading into the Aries full moon on October 17th. So these are going to be very intense days. I'm just giving you a heads up that next week is going to be intense, and you might be feeling busy. You might be feeling a little scattered. If you're sensitive at all, you're going to be feeling this. We also have these big solar storms going on, and so keep breathing, right? This type of energy from the universe is trying to prepare us for something, push things forward so that we can get right where we need to be in time for it. So the sun trine Jupiter will help things flow. Mercury square Pluto brings deep communication and thought processes. Venus opposite Uranus will have us feeling scattered when it comes to our relationships, and Venus trine Neptune will make us feel uncertain in our relationships. So we also have the Uranus return for the United States. Remember, Uranus is that planet of unexpected shifts and changes. That's not always bad. It can be very good. So my desire for all of you is, like I said, stay grounded, stay centered, and remember that, as they say, in a world where you can choose anything, please choose kindness. There's a lot of rough stuff out there, And we need to hold it together as we move forward, especially because I'm not going to get into politics, but yes, we are moving toward the November elections. And it's a very important time, not only for our country, but for planet Earth. So blessings to all of you. I have a wonderful guest for my show today. You're going to enjoy him. Happy Ali is the author of The Intuition Bible, How and Why to Tap into Your Inner Wisdom, and the host of the Happy Insights podcast with a BA in psychology from UCLA. He is a prophetic dreamer, a certified master NLP practitioner, a clinical hypnotherapist. Happy's spiritual journey began after a near-death experience in 1995. Oh, that was an important year, inspiring him to explore metaphysical disciplines and develop his subconscious manifestation methodology, which he now teaches globally. Based in Los Angeles, Happy is dedicated to helping others tap into their intuition and live a more joyful, fulfilled life. Good morning, Happy. How are you?
Good morning. How are you, Loretta?
I'm great. It's so nice to see you.
Thank you so much. It's nice to be here. And thank you so much for having me on your show.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I have to tell you that I love your name and I love just being able to say good morning, Happy.
Thank you so much. It's a lot to live up to, but I try to do my best.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, we all have to try to live up to our names. So I just got to ask you, were you born with that name or did you?
You know what? I wasn't actually. I was not. I got that name after my near-death experience in 1995. And I think I went to sleep one night and woke up another person with what I considered the secret to happiness. And after that, I was just such a joyous person with so much more clarity in life that eventually I think someone called me Happy and it just stuck. And then I made it legal so that it wouldn't be a phase, that I could live up to it for the rest of my life. And just a little secret, although it won't be a secret, I legally made it my last name, even though I use it as my first name and it's professionally my first name. So my children would have it. So my twins right now are the Happy Twins, which is kind of, it's kind of exciting for me to see that, like, the name moving on.
So you're actually Mr. Happy.
Yes. Yeah.
You have the Happy Twins. Benny, are you there? Benny's
yeah.
got twins.
I'm hearing everything. Okay. I'm a twins dad too. So, all right, twins unite. Yay.
I bow down to anyone who has raised twins, and I raise them on my own. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
How old are your twins, Happy?
They're 7.5 now.
I love that age.
How old are yours, Benny? Benny,
mine will be 14 in January.
Hey.
Yeah, right?
I'm scared to ask what it's like, but
yeah, I was just gonna say maybe you could share him some wisdom.
I'll just say, because they're probably in school right now and not listening, they starting to smell. You know that teenage boy smell? Yeah, we have a lot of chats about that, but I won't get into it now.
I'm prepping them for that now. I'm like, you guys need to make sure you take 2 showers.
There we go.
Deodorant, there we go. Literally prepping them as we speak.
Perfect.
Oh my gosh, I like it. So for anybody out there with twins or teenage boys, pay attention, right? There could be something in there.
Spiritual insights.
Spiritual insights. Yeah. Boy, there's a lot of questions that I have just about that part. You had a near-death experience. Do you want to tell us more about that? Because I've actually had 3. Yeah, go ahead.
Really? So mine was like, my body didn't actually die or go through the death process, but my mind thought that I was, because it was a failed self-induced suicide attempt but when I went to sleep, I wasn't expecting to wake up. So I think I released all resistance. And when it's a long story that I don't want to take up your time, but when I did wake up in the morning, I guess I had tapped into something greater or something, because my frequency raised or something. And I didn't really understand what had happened. And I thought that I had actually died and they had replaced my soul with someone else. because I just knew so much information that I didn't know the night before. So because I knew so much, I don't know, like everything changed. It was almost like I had been seeing life through a very small lens, and now I was seeing it from so many perspectives. And when that happens, you just can't have the same personality anymore, and you just can't see life. But I learned about energy, reincarnation, about so much. And the importance of seeing life through a perspective that doesn't torture you, basically. And that's where happy came from.
Wow. So you had a real shift.
It was
Real shift. You were never the same, were you? No,
no.
no.
No, but I'll tell you something. Don't name yourself happy unless you want the universe to test you, to make sure that you are truly who you say you are, because I've been through the ringer and back. So I don't even think that's the correct saying, but the back part. But I've been through it all, but I've lived up to it. I mean, I've tried to. Life is always very interesting, to say the least.
Well, I am going to totally thumbs you up on that one. Like it's a constant challenge. And I did think about that when I saw your name. I go, wow, that's a lot to live up to. The name happy or joy or hope, these kinds of things, because I bet you're not always happy. You are, but you're not, it's that kind of a thing. Um, when you take a look at your life, because you have gone through a lot of things, which I want to pull out because I want people to know who you are, as well as your wonderful book, which I'm going to show the listeners right now, The Intuition Bible, a lovely book. By the way, I love this cover.
Thank you.
It's called The Intuition Bible, How and Why to Tap into Your Inner Wisdom by Happy Allie. Just go buy it right now. Just get it because you're going to want it. You're just going to want it. But when you take a look at that, and so that happened, and you were a young man at that time. You're still a young man, in my opinion, but that's a few years ago. And you also went through some great sorrow. You actually lost a son. And could you fill us in on that? Because just take a few moments to tell us about that.
Absolutely. Well, my son that died actually was shown to me in a dream, because I'm a prophetic dreamer. I get to dream things in advance, and I really believe in following what your soul or what your intuition tells you to do. So I was shown my son in a dream when I was 28, and I was just living life, just very clueless, just I had already decided that I was only going to live by example, by being happy, not teach it. And I was not planning on having a family. And then I was shown a child in this dream when they were like, "You're having a baby, Happy." And I said, "Well, I can't be having a baby considering the fact that I am in fact gay, and it's not a real possibility, and I'm not even don't have money." And and they showed me my best friend Trisha, who was 9 months pregnant in the dream, and she was lesbian with a wife. And in the dream, I saw her going to labor, so I said, "Hey, let's take you to the hospital." And her wife said no. She sat her down, pulled the baby out, and gave me this boy and said, "Here's your son, Cyrus." And I thought, if you've ever held your own baby for the very first time, the love that you have at that moment, the emotions are so powerful. And I got to experience that emotion for the first time without ever having a child. And I was crying, and I woke up from the dream and called my best friend up the next day, said, "We had a baby. It's a boy." And it wasn't really on her, in her plans to have a baby with me. But a year and a half later, through at home kit turkey baster style, we ended up having our son, and we didn't like the name Cyrus, so we named him Sky. And then 4 years later, or 4.5 years later, I had a dream that my different best friend and my father died, and I was burying them. And I remember waking up and calling Trisha up and saying, "Hey, I had a really bad dream. Two people close to me are going to die." And she said, "Well, you and your dreams, Happy." I thought, my dreams is the reason what led us to having a child. Like, why are you dismissing my dreams? Anyway, so 2.5 months later, I had another dream of a car, of death, and it was a car accident. And later that day, my son and my best friend Trisha both died in the car crash. And it was just surreal how, you think, about happiness, you think about how you've made plans in your life. And I had, stopped being a makeup artist and pursued my career in psychology. And I literally the next day I got into UCLA to get my psych degree. But it was everything just shattered. So the whole world fell apart. But the idea that I had already seen the dream and seen the death in advance was very comforting to me, because I knew that it wasn't an accident.
Yeah.
And it started this communication I had with my son, because that night, so he had a sister who was my goddaughter, and I adopted her when he was born. So, and she was in that car accident, and she was gonna die because she was in the coma. And that night I said, give me some Tylenol PM, put me to sleep so I can find out what's going on. And he showed up and he was super happy. And he said, Daddy, I'm okay. And Faith, my sister, his sister, my daughter, is going to live and she'll be fine. And that was the beginning of the communication I had with him. And it really did ease the pain, although every time I'd wake up and I'd have to realize that it was, the communication was over, the dream was over. It would be like getting stabbed in the heart all over again. And that's the time of my life where I questioned my name for a few months.
Okay.
And then, but he immediately started telling me I was going to have another baby. And I said, well, I am not planning on having another baby. First of all, I'm a student now. I don't have my person who made my baby anymore. And it's just not going to happen. And then he was so adamant. He would show up and show up and show up and then show me this little curly haired kid. And I was holding this baby and there was another kid. I thought it was him. And I just thought, this is not going to happen. It's like $100,000 and you have to pay it cash. And I was making like anywhere between 19 to 30 something thousand a year. And I don't know, one day it was like, today's the day you have to take the action. And I followed my intuition. I followed the dreams. I followed his guidance. And that's when my twins were born a year and a half later. And now one's curly haired, one's straight haired. And I got to actually meet them before they were born as adults, almost to soothe my fear that they were going to die.
Wow. That is an amazing story. And that is also a real story of all kinds of things. We go through what I call these great initiations, the dark night of the soul. Like there's not just one, right? Like sometimes I'm like, okay, I just crawled out and I got to crawl through again, right? But I've been doing my work for almost 30 years, and one of the things that I have repeatedly experienced is my personal experience, as well as a lot of people, that my greatest healers, workers, intuitives, spiritual people have really gone through challenges. And I don't know, I was thinking about, one of my biggest questions is, why does our hearts have to break open? Why do we have to break open in order to reach another level? I don't know if you have a answer for that. I do know that on the other side of grief, grief to me is one of the biggest initiators. But on the other side of that, we can find joy again somehow.
Well, yeah, the other side of grief is love. The only reason you grieve is because you love.
Yeah.
And I got a download once and it was really clear because I did ask, why do I have to go through so much? Or why do we have to go through so much? And I got this clear answer. And it was, before you're born, your soul has so much superpowers. It knows its abilities. And it's almost like when you come into this world, you forget everything. And the soul comes here for transformation, but it kind of has to go through I call it the spiritual muscle building. It's almost like if a bodybuilder was your soul and then it was born into this frail little child, it has to go through different exercises to be able to regain its muscles so it can kind of take off where it left off. So I think a lot of people with really big souls, really big empowering, I mean, everybody is like that too, but people with big missions in life, they have to remember who they are and their worth and their value. And you can't just remember unless you do have some download like the way I did, but you still need to go through it, not only to gain compassion, not only to learn about other people's perspective, because it was easy for me to teach people how to be happy when I hadn't been through all that. But as a teacher of joy and happiness, once I go through it, then I have a different perspective. And I think we go through this stuff to gain more perspective and to regain our spiritual muscles. And the people with bigger missions in life tend to have to go through more because they have to catch up with where they were, and then they can take off and keep transforming. So that was a download I got. So, it's just a perspective.
I really appreciate that answer, because that resonates with me. I think it's spot on. And I also know that, like, for instance, I talk to people all the time about what's the truth. Like, we're inundated with all this information, like, what is the truth and where do I go for the truth, and how do I get there? And I'm like, you will know when you hear the truth. One of the aspects of that to me is the deepness of the knowledge which is embodied, which you have. And so you are, in my opinion, the real thing, right? Not just spewing things out your mouth, but you're coming from a deep place of authenticity is a word that's overused, but realness. And the realness too, because, Happy, I'm just giving you a compliment, but I'm recognizing when we are able to connect that world, the higher world, with this world, then we can become, the, I don't know, shepherds and the shepherdesses, or the compassionate ones, or we understand. And so you are there. So thank you.
I agree. And I think it's important to be connected and also be grounded. So you have this balance and acknowledge the human emotion, and also acknowledge the silliness of the human experience at the same time.
Yes.
So the more we learn, the more I think we find that balance. But thank you for all the kind words.
Yeah. Well, there's a richness to it. Life is deep. It's very deep. It isn't shallow. And a lot of people want to stay in the shallow. And I'm sorry, we're not in the shallow now. But anyway, that had to go in there. Sorry, it was just what came, right? But I appreciate that. For everybody listening, we're going to take a little station break. It's that time of the show. But please don't go away. When we come back, I'm going to ask Happy about prophetic dreaming, and also about his book and the help that is in there for everybody listening. We're going to talk about intuition. So this is Loretta Brown. My guest today, Happy Ali. We'll be right back.
All right, all clear, you two. Did you know that Reiki healing can be done at a distance? It's true. So let Reiki Oasis focus powerful energy to help relieve your stress, grief, sadness, anger, and so much more. Convenient, personalized treatments at a distance can increase lightness of being. During your appointment, find a quiet place to lie down or sit to receive healing energies. If you want help with your dis-ease, visit ReikiOasis.com. Harness life's energy. Visit ReikiOasis.com today.
I just got a text asking me to approve a bank transfer I didn't make. I bet you get messages like this too. So much of our lives are online today, from email to banking and everything in between. To make sure my information was protected, I checked out CISA's Secure Our World website for simple steps to stay safe online. Now I know how to protect myself from scammers, and you can learn too. Go to CISA at cisa.gov/Secure Our World.
Do you make a positive difference in the world? Do you have a talent, philosophy, base of knowledge, product or service that you know could help a lot of people if only you could reach them? Join Alternative Talk 1150's family of broadcasters and start walking down a fruitful path. As host of your very own program, dial 425-653-1150 and find out just how affordable it can be to have a show on 1150 AM. That's 425-653-1150. Alternative Talk. We have an opportunity waiting just for you.
Be sure to support the sponsors of your favorite shows on Alternative Talk 1150.
Are you ready to come back in? Sorry to interrupt. All right, stand by.
Woohoo! Welcome back to the original Loretta Brown Show with my guest, Happy Ali. I want to remind people that I am the owner of Reiki Oasis, and you can find out more about me at ReikiOasis.com. And also, all of these shows are archived, and you can download them for free at the KKNW 1150 AM archives for the original Loretta Brown Show. And we're on iTunes, Podcast One, Spotify, X, Megaphone. Well, I've left somebody out. They're all, just you'll find it. We're everywhere. That's how that works. And so, Happy, before the break, you were telling some of your personal story, but I want to ask you, you said the word prophetic dreamer, prophetic dreaming. What is prophetic dreaming? Have you always been able to do that? And how does that differ from regular dreaming?
So I think that everybody has the ability to have prophetic dreams, just as a matter of recognizing it. I was lucky enough to be born in a family that dreamt things and made such an important event out of every dream. And they talked about it so much so that when things would come true, we would validate the dream. And I was fostered in that environment that dreams are a part of reality, even though they seem like this ephemeral, something, very hard to grasp. But I didn't actually have my first prophetic dream. And prophetic dreams basically mean that you get to see things in advance. And you see them at an energetic point that it's already so built or so energetically matured that it will show up in your life. Because there are different versions of dreams. There's previews of what you're creating. There's dreams where your subconscious is sorting stuff out from the week. But then there are dreams where you get to preview what's already set in motion, and there's not much you can do about it. And in those particular cases, you just have to wait it out and experience what you've already seen. And my dreams have a 2-month or less timer on them, so I get to see things in about 2 months in advance. So if I have a birth dream or death dream or something, we know it's like 2 months away from it happening. So it gives us time to, especially death. Everyone thinks it's such a curse to be able to see death. But I think it's been such a blessing because it does give you time for closure. And if you don't know someone's going to die, and they're not sick or it's something weird, but you have an idea that it's going to happen, you get to talk to them and kind of wrap things up. I did that with my uncle last year, where I got to really see him. I hadn't FaceTimed him in so long, but I knew he was going to die. So I FaceTimed him, and that same day he went into the ICU and no one saw him again until he died. Or my dad wasn't going to go visit him, and because they thought he was going to survive. And I said, your brother has only like 3 weeks left, so hurry up. And I made sure I got him a ticket to go to that city, and he got to see his brother. And he was the last person actually to see his brother die before he died. So that's kind of how those work. But at the same time, I got to see my children being born. My last friend that I made, I got to meet him 3 weeks before I met him, and I recognized him from the dream. So there's a lot of things that it helps you if you kind of know what it is, and you have to journal enough to be able to correlate what the feeling you had when you had a prophetic dream is, because they all have something in common, and they tend to all be very vivid, so vivid that it feels like it was real life. It doesn't feel like it was just a dream, and you can remember all the gritty details. So, but not every dream is a prophetic dream. And dreams have so many layers, and I go over them in my work. And, there's the superficial ones, there's visitation ones. You get to visit loved ones. There's ones where there's no space and time, and you get to see the future or even revisit the past. There's a lot of different uses for the dreams, and they're only a fraction. It's only one little chapter of my book, because I really think that's just one avenue. And it's a really fun avenue once you learn how to recall your dreams. And that's the whole thing for some people. Some people think they can't dream, but everyone dreams. It's just a matter of whether you remember it or not.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by dreams and the dream world. And yeah, I love that. so you teach people about dreaming. Like you said, it's just one chapter in your book. I really want to get into, what the book is all about. So intuition, what is intuition?
Well, my definition of intuition is any form of information or knowledge that comes from outside of your logical mind, where you normally compute ideas. So that's what my definition of it is. So it could be from your body, your heart, your feelings, or it could even be from your external body, because I believe that we are basically one with the universe. Just as an atom or a cell is a part of our body, a cell is a part of our body. So when we think of the galaxy, the Milky Way, we're just a cell within that whole thing's structure. So sometimes information comes in the form of patterns, in the form of like friends, the type of people that you meet, but it's always information. It's outer intuition, or it could be anything from gut feelings, dreams, anything. So anything that does not come from the regular logical mind. It's my definition.
I love that. In your book, you have clairs. You have all the clairs.
I do.
And yeah, go ahead. You can talk about that a little bit. Yeah.
Well, people think we have a sixth sense, but it's really your clairs are your many senses that are your sixth sense. And it's for every outer sense you have an inner sense that matches it. So your vision also has clairvoyance, or when you feel something is clairsentience. So every sense that you have that's outer, you have the exact inner version of it. And everybody has all of them. It's just a matter of what's more common for most people. And sometimes if you have something really important happen, other senses come online. It's just being aware of them. But everyone's got them. Just the same way as you've got eyes and ears, and most people have them, you have all the inner senses as well. They're just underdeveloped, or you don't pay attention to them.
What are some of the common blockages that get in the way of people accessing their, I'm just going to say, intuition? We are talking about the clairs, like, clairvoyance, clairsentient, whatever, however you receive it. But what are some of the common blockages? And you may have said one there, like people are just not taught.
Well,
right?
The most important blockage is our own brain, our own subconscious mind. At every moment in our lives, we receive about 11 million bits of data in every minute, in every second, 11 million bits of data, but we can only process about 100 and something, which means 99.99999% of information that's coming to us and through us from the inner world and the outer world has to be deleted or temporarily stored for us to be able to function. Because if we have more than that 100 and something bits per second, our brains are going to just implode. So the brain has to consider whatever the information that's coming to you important enough and in alignment with your beliefs for it to allow it to be filtered into the conscious awareness. So when somebody doesn't believe that they're intuitive, or someone has not paid attention to it, or someone doesn't think it's a priority, guess what? It's going to get deleted along with the other 11 million bits. So unless you have some sort of a desire for it, or some sort of a need, or you prioritize intuition in some way and believe that it's accessible to you, it will be deleted because it's just the way that it works. So that's, I think, the number one biggest block. Our lack of belief and desire.
Yeah, and that also is like you won't pay attention to it, or you'll brush it off, right? Like you'll say, "Oh, that didn't mean anything," or "That was just the rambling of my whatever." How can people? Well, first of all, your book helps people tap into their intuition, but how can people use intuition in everyday decision making, especially if there's some sort of conflict, like maybe I want it to be this answer, but it's this answer, or maybe I just don't even know what the answer is?
That's a tough one, but I will teach you what I do.
Okay.
I think that, first of all, when we're paying too much attention to the outside world, our brain waves are very fast. They're in high beta. So we only have access to that very fast world that's outside. Our intuition and anything that comes from inside comes in a way that you have to slow down your brain waves for it to even pick it up. So you have to give it time. So the first thing you got to do is maybe close your eyes or quiet the senses a little bit so your brain waves slow down. And then you have to check in. You literally have to ask yourself, which no one does, hey, is this a good idea? Should I make this decision? And that's just step one. Then step two is really learning the language of your subconscious or your body when it gives you a yes or no answer. I have twin boys, and one is super empathetic and feels. So he uses his body as a way to get the yeses and nos. And then the other one is just very logical. So he has to use different techniques. But I always like to teach the yes or no way through the body because it does work really well for most people. And I say, think of something that you know the answer is yes to, and ask the question, and then close your eyes and see if you feel anything in your chest area and stomach area. And once you get that answer, now ask a no question, something you're sure is a no question, and see where it shows up, and keep doing that over and over until you're familiar with where the yeses and the nos are. And once you get familiar with that, then ask a question that you don't know the answer to. Or should I go on this road? Or should I take this passage? Or should I not? And you will get the feeling. But you have to first learn the language of your subconscious. And most people can feel something when I say try to feel something. And some people can't. And they have to use other techniques that I teach in the book. I mean, sometimes I have to pull out some, just my cards or something that's more like old fashioned, because my brain is so wanting something to be the way that it is. I have such an agenda for the outcome that no matter how loud my intuition is, I can't hear it. So I'd be like, all right, just here, and I'll just toss a coin or something. Give me something. But in reality, when we have a really huge desire for a specific outcome, intuition doesn't stand a chance. It just doesn't. Our senses are way too loud, and and even when you do get it, you're going to dismiss it anyway. You're going to be like, oh, that was nothing.
Yeah. Or you're going to exercise what I say is the power of choice. Some people call it free will choice, where you're like, okay, well, I kind of think I shouldn't do that, but I'm doing it anyway. Right.
Guilty.
And then you're like, wait a minute. I think someone was trying to tell me no. And I just, yeah. But that over attachment to the outcome, that's a tricky thing. And you even said, when you were answering the other question, that, finding that place of stillness. Like, I think the mastery is, can you get centered? Can you empty your mind? Can you wipe off that chalkboard in there? Can you let go of your agenda? It's a journey. It's a journey. And sometimes it's good to go to somebody else and get an answer. But the Intuition Bible, your book, How and Why to Tap into Your Inner Wisdom, to me is like, people need to develop this ability. And Happy, you and I were talking during the break, and I was saying, in our ever-changing world, because we are shifting from one age into another age, the age of Aquarius, which is an air sign, right? Which intuition definitely plays a role in that. And the question of what do we know and what do we not know, spending too much time watching fearful things, right, gets us all anxious, and then it's very difficult to find out, well, what is the truth, or what is the way to go? How do we do this? Yeah,
I think that it is time, and I didn't know that it was time for such a book to come out. I was writing a different book called The Heart Lens, which is all about seeing life through the heart's perspective. And I said a prayer at one night. I said, hey, can you tell me what the world needs right now, or how it can be of greater service? And I'll do whatever you say. And I'd say this all the time: use me, use my body, use me to the best of my abilities. And I woke up with this book in 15 chapters of it already pre-written in my head. And I didn't understand why I had to write it. I didn't understand why I was the one who was supposed to write it. I just sat in front of my computer and let it all come out, and it turned out to be 29 chapters. And the thing that I want to say is that when you do follow those impulses, things work out easily, because I said, I already have someone who wants to publish the other book, but I don't have a publisher for this. So find a publisher, find your own publisher, do your own work. I'm not putting in any extra effort. I'm just going to write it. And against all odds, the first people that saw the book wanted to publish it, and they sent me a contract with an advance. And that was just, you know, the law of least effort. Everything just fell into my lap. And I just feel so blessed because I just feel like if I don't follow the intuition, or having children as a gay guy, you know, I have 4 kids. One is not here anymore, but having children is a very difficult thing. And for me to have 4 children because I followed my intuition with almost no effort. I have to say it was 0 effort. It was like straight people effort, except it wasn't as fun. And and it was just my babies just fell into my lap. And there were people who, when I had my children through surrogacy, there were people who were with me when they received their children. They were like, we spent $1 million. This is our 10th try. We ended up with 1 baby after like 100 embryos. And I ended up with the only 2 I put in, I ended up with. So it's following your soul's purpose, and your soul has a purpose when it decides to come into this world. And when you align with it and you listen to it, doors open. And when you don't listen to it, it supports you by closing doors. It says, I'm going to support you by closing all these doors because you're not on the right, not the right path, this on your soul's journey that you're supposed to be on. And, you know, and you can play around. It's just you have to knock on many doors if you don't want to be on your soul's journey.
Well, you know, I also call that navigating. Like, so, wow, I just love what you said. I love the way you said it. Yeah, when you are trying to move forward, or you are moving forward in a direction, and those doors are closed and irrevocably closed, nope, that's not the way to go. So many people struggle with that, and they'll battle against it rather than go the other direction.
Because we have a desire, there's something that we want. And, you know, I'm a master manifester. If I want something bad enough, it'll happen. It's just because I'm really good at, you know, making energy into matter. And earlier in my life, I would make things happen because I really knew I could, and then have to suffer the consequences, or the consequence of having this thing forced into my life. And I made heaven and earth move to get the things that I wanted, and then had to pay for it later. So then I realized, oh shoot, real manifestation is just creating desires and saying how you want to feel, and watching the universe bring it to you in the way that it wants you to experience it. So now I don't force, when I teach manifestation, I don't teach people to force things to happen anymore. Because people are like, don't you want your book to sell millions? Aren't you going to do that? I said, no, I'm going to wish that the people who need to read it will read it. And if they happen to be millions, they will be millions. If they happen to be 20, then they will be 20. But that's what I'm going to wish for.
So is that part of your subconscious manifestation methodology? Okay.
Yes, because the subconscious plays a huge role. It's a gatekeeper for all things. So I always tell people, let go of your beliefs. Your beliefs have a huge impact on your manifestation. So I teach people about their programming, and I also try to like get people to not be so married to the end result, and really appreciate the process, and not know that they're worth it. Because when you know you're worth it, and you know that you're being supported by the universe, you can just let yourself kind of slide through any situation and come out on top.
Yeah, people get lockjawed about something, is the way I look at it. Like they strangle it. They got a stranglehold on it, and there's any room for movement or flow or breath within that. Yeah.
It happens a lot in relationships when somebody falls in love with someone and they're not the right person, and then they just will suffocate themselves or others, or they're too scared to leave, or something happens. And relationships are a really good example of you really like getting locked onto something that might not be the best thing for you. And every sign and every person around you and every bit of your intuition is telling you one thing, but but at the same time, I think when you're experiencing that, you do have to go through the process to learn what you're worth, what your boundaries are. So there's no real wrong way to do anything. There's always something to come out of everything.
Well, that kind of ties back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, of the things that you had to go through, you know, it to be happy.
Yeah.
Right. You're probably still working on being happy, right? Yeah.
Every day.
Every day. Yeah, every single day. What if you could go back, if you could tell your younger self something important that they that might help them, what would you tell them?
Well, first of all, to believe in myself and not let other people's opinions of me impact me the way that it did. And most importantly, to know that I am a powerful being and I'm supported fully by forces beyond my understanding, and to trust my inner knowing, because I let other people guide me in younger years. And I was supposed to be doing what I'm doing now when I was 17. And people looked at me and said, "You're crazy. No one's going to believe you." But I kept writing anyway. And now when I look back at the writings that I wrote as a 17-year-old, I am just in awe. I'm thinking there's so many books written like that now. But I think if you just follow your inner voice and use your inner voice to discern what is right for you, as long as you're kind of neutral and don't have strong agendas, and let it guide you, you are meant for success and joy and happiness way before society thinks that you should have everything, or when your family believes in you. Because family and friends, they try to warn you so you don't get disappointed, but at the same time, it holds you back. So that's what I would say. And I said, don't believe them when they say you're ugly, because the world, there's this huge standards of beauty. And I think that I fell into that trap, and I never feel pretty anymore, ever. And, so I feel like there's so many things that I learned from other people because I listened to other people and messed my life up big time.
Wow, I think that's powerful advice. I think that's good advice for all of us. Too much looking outside of ourselves and not looking inside. And I'll just say this, I think you're very pretty. Yeah. I mean it. I think I told you that before.
Thank you. You're very sweet.
If someone feels disconnected from their life's purpose, or someone's listening to what you have to say and they're going, yeah, I'm not really living my life's purpose, what advice would you give them as to how to, I'm going to say, find their way or find their real calling?
I'd say go back to your childhood with the moments that you had a lot of fun, and because it's instilled in us. So a lot of things that we love to do are just different versions of what we maybe like to do as children. And before we got told that we were supposed to do other stuff. And at sometimes, just if you really don't know what to do, find one thing that you enjoy doing and do it with conviction. The key thing is, when you do something with conviction, it will put you on a path that will eventually lead you to the right place, even if it's the wrong path. The problem is when you doubt what you're doing, you end up on more roads of and paths of doubt. So pick the wrong choice. As long as you have conviction and it's not hurting anybody and it's not hurting yourself, it's not destructive. And then on that path of conviction and of deciding, I'm going to do this, you will meet the people that will take you on your soul's path, because the soul is fully engaged and active in your life, opening and closing doors. And be open when doors open. Basically, when you see something open, walk in and be open to it. Don't say, oh no, I created this whole life's plan and now I this other door is opening. Just walk through it. You don't have to shut the other doors. Just walk through it and see what's in there.
Yeah, I love that. I think it takes a second of courage, or sometimes you just do it. Just do it. Stop thinking about it. Just do it. Yeah,
The
it's
worst
there.
that can happen is you fail. And then if you
Yeah,
fail, you learn how to get up again. You grow new muscles.
yeah. Well, where can people find you, Happy? And a final message to the listening audience.
You
Yeah.
can always go to happyinsights.net or my Instagram, which is Happy Insights Official, and where the links are to all my everything. And uh, everything, my courses, my book, my everything, my podcast. But the last message, to something that I do want to convey, is that it is time. Now is the time for us to grow our new spiritual muscles. A good way to know that now is the time is by acknowledging that AI exists, and as above, so below. Whatever happens in the physical world happens in the spiritual world. And now on our computers, we have access to new data that we never did before. that is a supercomputer that gives us information in real time. And at the same time, that means that we have now access to a super spiritual computer in a way that we never did before. So be one of the first to open up your mind, to tap into that wisdom, and don't let this opportunity go by, which will never go by, but jump on, this intuition wagon and jump on the, super spiritual computer wagon and see how much your life will improve.
Wow, that's great. So thank you to Happy Allie, author of the Intuition Bible. Thanks for being on my show and blessing us with your presence. And everybody have a great week. And Benny Mathers, you are the very best. Thank you so much. Bye
Thank
now.
you for having me.